Hey everyone, thank you for joining our presentation today. We'll get started at 3 minutes past the hour so that we can allow for more people to join in. If you guys have any questions or comments, you can shoot those over to trainingna@vivotech.com and then we'll answer you as quickly as possible. Hello, thank you guys for joining us today. We're going to get started in about 3 minutes so that we can allow for most attendees to join us. So if you guys have any questions, just shoot those over to trainingna@vivotech.com and then we'll get those answered as quickly as possible. Hello, everyone. My name is Annalie Shane. I'm the technical field trainer with VIVOTEK. Today, we're going to be going over VIVOTEK's Stop and Go LPR solution. We feature two bullet cameras with a built-in license plate recognition system that also supports license plates from over 70 countries. It has a centralized list management in a single camera and then can fully integrate with our VAS2 VMS. We'll go over some of the features and then we'll go over how to set it up. So if you have any questions at all, just shoot those over to training NA as in North America at vivotek.com. In the past, we focused on what we do best. We're going to take that best quality image for the Professional LPR Alliance to recognize. Okay, that statement has since shifted, and we now provide a built-in recognition camera starting at the stop and go segment. So included in VIVOTEK's license plate product portfolio, we have freeway license plate capturing, which is up to 155 miles an hour. Street or city surveillance, so this is going to be 60 to 110 miles an hour, and then stop and go, which is going to be for more locations like parking lots. The ideal applications for our portfolio include access control, red light enforcement, surveillance and security, traffic monitoring, and then tollways. In this presentation, we're going to be focusing on the stop and go application. VIVOTEK has two bullet cameras with that built-in license plate recognition software and edge computing capabilities. We have the IB9387 LPR and the IB9365 LPR. And then some of the key features with these cameras are going to be an embedded access control application based on the LPR software, fully integrates with VAS2, an extensive list of supported cameras. So these two can identify license plates from over 70 countries or states simultaneously. You have a black and white list for license plate verification, centralized list management in a single camera. And then the camera also converts number plates into Wiegand signals for use with an access control system. Various open APIs are available for third-party integration. And then with the 16 gig out-of-the-box SD card, we can store approximately 600,000 images. This all-in-one auto number plate recognition, or ANPR. Okay, so this ANPR camera is called the IB9387 LPR. It's an extended model of the 5 megapixel IB9387 with license plate recognition software running on the VADP, or VIVOTEK Application Development Platform. It has a focal length of 2.7 to 13.5 millimeters, but if you're needing a camera with a longer focal length, the IP9365 LPR has a 12 to 40 millimeter lens. Okay, these cameras are targeted at three markets. We have parking lots, so whether it's indoor or outdoor parking lots, toll collection booths, and then also gas stations, or even any LPR application where a vehicle is going to stop or almost come to a complete stop. The IBLPR cameras support both simple and complex scenarios. They can work as an embedded access control application based on LPR software where it can trigger a digital output device whenever a number plate is recognized and then match in the data for a list such as like a white list. The LPR cameras can also work in complex scenarios and work with access control systems by converting number plates into Wiegand signals. Okay, here for this example, we are using the LPR camera as a standalone device, which means that the access control is controlled solely by the camera. The advantage of the solution is the simple configuration where that camera's digital output is connected directly to the relay of the access control. Okay, so whenever a plate is recognized, the output signal is sent to the camera or from the camera to the gate opener. Okay, function-wise, there are three functions done here. We're going to locate the plate, recognize the characters, and then trigger an action. So in this solution, the three functions are all done by the camera itself. But then we have this complex scenario, and in this setup, the three main functions are done by two different devices. So that camera's going to locate the plate and recognize the characters. Okay, but the decision to open the gate is decided by the access control system. Okay, with the cameras integrated into that access control system, we can further integrate this to a video management system. This is going to provide video recording of the entrance alarm on the blacklist. That's just going to make it easier to find the footage whenever it's needed. So this is going to be handy because say we have a security guard and the parking lot staff that are in two different user groups. In this configuration, the security guard is going to be alerted so they can react sooner. Okay, let's get into the physical installation. So how to best position our camera. It's important to know that the accuracy of the LPR is 80% position of the camera and 20% configuration. Therefore, so if you have a really bad location, then the camera configuration is only going to provide limited enhancement. Okay, so the following slides, we're going to look into how to best set up the location of the camera. So here are some suggestions. The height of the camera installation is recommended from 0.5 meter to 1.5 meters. The detection distance is 2 to 6 meters, and this is going to take into consideration the optical zoom as well. You have the horizontal angle of the camera, which is recommended to be less than 35 degrees. Any more than that, we're going to see a detection rate drop. Okay, and then also you want to make sure that the angle for the tilt of the license plate is less than 25 degrees. Once again, any more than that, and we might see a detection rate drop. All right, so taking a look closer at this, we know the height of the camera, the detection distance, and the camera's vertical angle are all related to each other. They're all going to form this triangle you see here. So we recommend limiting that within 35 degrees for the best results. Another important factor that's tied with the location is the camera's exposure value. So the IB LPR cameras capture with lower exposure to avoid motion blur and headlight. So the IB LPR's exposure values are going to be tuned by default. So I just want to show you here the default values. You have a minimum of 1/480th of a second to avoid the motion blur, fast AE or fast auto exposure speed to adjust to light change, and then a low AE sensitivity to avoid constant change. Some other things I want you guys to be aware of in your environment is going to be red license plates. So whether you have a red number with a white background, white numbers on a red background, or black over red, that's one issue. Another one is going to be anti-reflective license plates. And then the third one we'll talk about is low lux environment. So the low lux environment, very relatively easy to understand. We found that lower than 50 lux is going to affect the detection results. The problem with the red license plates is that the IR light and the wavelength of the color red is right next to each other. So whenever an IR light shines on red, part of that energy is going to be absorbed, and then also the IR cut filter is going to lower the intensity as well. Okay, but we go with the anti-reflective coating. On the other hand, it's going to work by absorbing all of the IR light. So no light is reflected, so therefore no license plate can be seen. Some things to get around this. So if you meet any of these criteria where you have a red license plate or characters, or you need to see the car colors. And then also, if you have a detection area where the luminosity is lower than 50 lux, then you can use a white light illuminator. Okay, you could just keep it on for 24 hours and then set the camera to always be in day mode. All right, now let's talk about the user interface on the ANPR software. So once we log into the camera, and I'll show you how to get to this login page or this ANPR software page once we get into the demo. But over here, you're going to have your live view. This is what the camera is viewing. At the top, you'll have all of your options to go into your settings. Here's going to be our system status. And then over in this area at the bottom is going to be our detection results. So let's take a little closer look at the detection results. Here you'll see the license plate number, and right here is going to show the country, but it can also be states here. We have the number height, which is going to be in pixels, our timestamp, our confidence level, and then at the bottom, if it's on a list, it'll show up here. The next tab is going to be review, and here's where we could search our results. These support wildcard searches, so all you have to do is just type in a partial number or character of the plate and then it's going to look for the license plate with those contained characters. So for instance, if I type in 1, 2 in plate, then it's going to search for all plates containing 1 and 2. Okay, download image over here. It's going to download a snapshot of the evidence, and then that's going to be the whole field of view. It's not going to be just the license plate as you see here. Next tab is going to be list. So this is going to be for our list management. Okay, so if we set up our blacklist, whitelist, company, department, and such, so forth and so on, the purpose right here is to search and set up a list type, okay, and then also give an action for the list. So each single list has its own independent action, and then you can export the configuration. Next tab is LPR configuration, but we'll go more into this in a little bit. So let's go ahead and go to the next tab, and that's going to be general configuration. So the menus in this section are expert option, log option, and purge option, and then maintenance. Okay, so for the first three, expert, log, and purge, the default statuses is what's already recommended. So let's just say leave this one alone. Okay, what you can work with is going to be the maintenance one, and that's where you can import config files and then update your license as well. The next tab is going to be audit, and this is where you can just verify the action and the synchronization are working properly. And then final one is going to be logs. Here you can download the logs for technical support. All right, now let's set up the camera for license plate recognition. So the IB 9387 LPR has a focal length of 2.7 millimeters to 13.5 millimeters, or a 5 times optical zoom. So if this zoom does not get you close enough, then the IB9365 LPR has a 12 to 40 millimeter lens and can be installed between 5 to 10 meters away. Okay, always use that optical zoom to get a clear picture of the license plate. If this doesn't work, then we can adjust the VADP resolution and then change the LPR analytic pixel. I'll show you more about what I'm talking about for the VADP resolution here in a second. All right, so here's what I mean by not getting close enough. There is a character height requirement of 25 to 40 pixels. Heads up, character height does not equal license plate height, okay? So it's just gonna go based off of that character's height because you know our license plates are a little bit taller than, characters. So here's how you could tell if the characters are big enough. On your live screen, you're gonna check the box next to calibration pattern. Okay, it's going to draw lines across the screen like this. Between two white lines is a dark bar, and the height of that bar is 25 pixels. Our recommendation is to fit the plate characters into at least 2 bars or 3 white lines. But of course, there's going to be times whenever distance is limited and then the characters are smaller or larger than we expect. So what we could do is change the detection pixel height to either larger or smaller. Okay, so all we have to do is either lower the VADP resolution to enlarge the detection pixel, or we can increase the resolution to minimize the detection pixel. Okay, you have these different options right here, 640 by 480 up to 1920 by 1080. Okay, so some people are going to think if I use a higher resolution to fit the characters into more detection pixels, then it's going to increase my detection rate. But that's actually not the case. Okay, so in fact, if you use a higher VADP resolution, it's going to increase your processing time, so you may miss some. All right, so next we are going to need to be sure to set a region of interest so that we can avoid all this excess information. Okay, we need the camera to ignore the movement in the background trees, the stop signs, and then the entrance notice signs. There's many potential locations that can lead to detection area errors, but if we set a region of interest only around the areas where that license plate is going to pass through, then we can avoid excess information because the camera is going to detect only the characters inside of that region of interest. In some rare cases where the camera is installed at a further distance, it can capture two lanes at the same time. Okay, the LPR engine is capable to detect two license plates at the same time. Therefore, we can apply that on two lanes. All we have to do is draw a line in between the physical lane and it's going to separate that live view into two lanes. Next, there's going to be some different modes that we need to configure the timing of the license plate recognition. So we can choose to where we only recognize whenever there's a motion change, or it can always recognize in regards to a change of the scene. And then also we can recognize only whenever there's a trigger. So motion detection and free flow are related. So let's go ahead and discuss the trigger mode first. Trigger mode is an option where the parking lot infrastructures has an input device such as an inductive loop. It's going to work in a four-step process. You can trigger from the digital input or a socket client. Then it's going to capture the scene. Third is going to be camera's going to recognize the plate in front of it. And then the fourth action is going to be open the gate or some other related action. Next, we'll go into motion detection mode. So to talk about motion detection mode, we first need to recall normal motion detection. So motion detection is the comparison between two frames. If the difference is up to a certain threshold, then the alarm will be triggered. Okay, that's going to work similarly in LPR motion detection mode, where the engine will only recognize if the motion between two frames is above the threshold. Okay, so at first we receive frame one and then frame two. The two frames are compared and then the difference is below the threshold, so no recognition is processed. Then whenever frame three comes in, it's compared to frame two. Well, the difference here is above the motion threshold, so the recognition of the plate is processed. Free flow mode is much simpler. So whenever frame one is captured, it's recognized. Frame two is captured, it's recognized. Frame three is captured, that one's recognized as well. Okay, so default as motion detection is enough for stop and go applications, and then free flow mode is going to be best used for testing. And then finally, you can set up lists such as a blacklist and whitelist, and then you can set up actions for what to do whenever a license plate from your list is recognized, such as you can have a socket client where you enable a socket connection to send messages as XML or JSONs, socket server, so you can open up a port in the camera to listen to host to send messages, OnVIF event, so enable the OnVIF event to send the license plate information using this protocol. You could store results in an FTP server, send a request via HTTP to a server. Milestone, you can send an analytic event to a milestone VMS, and then Weekend, so you can send signals to Weekend middleware boards. The way to connect the VIVOTEK LPR camera with VAS2 is very simple. So if you guys recall from last week's presentation, I showed you how to set it up very quickly, just a couple minutes. Set up to the you set up that camera as a socket client and then VAS as your socket server via the feature data magnet. Don't worry, the LPR data source is not going to have a data magnet license fee. That is included. So the VAS server port for license plate recognition data source can be customized. It's not limited to this 17,000, this port 17,000 here. And then heads up, if you guys are going to have more than one VivoTech LPR camera, you'll only need to add one LPR data source. Okay, you can only add one data source, but just letting you know you only have to add it once. The alarm works by monitoring specific words such as the name, a blacklist, or an ID number, or any of those kinds of conditions. All right, so with VAS2, this is going to be the live view. It's going to show the data, so it's going to display that related data in live view. You can edit what is displayed, what data is displayed. You can search your recordings for that certain data. And also you can display search results with a line graph, and then also you can export those search results as well. And I just wanted to show you if we were to perform a data magnet search, we can search for certain criteria and then play back the video as well. And then we have alarm management. So we can trigger an alarm whenever data in certain columns are matched with preset criteria. And then you can include the event triggering camera. And then also it's going to allow users to put data source information such as send an email or send HTTP request. All right, everyone, let me do a brief demo on how getting into this camera. We'll navigate through the ANPR software, and then I'll show you how to set this camera up inside of VAS2. And then we'll take a look at the live view and then the data magnet search functions. So first, I'm going to need my handy dandy Shepherd to find our LPR camera. So here it is. I have the IB 9387. Go ahead and double click on that and log in. And same as logging into any of our cameras, we have the same interface. Let me show you how to get to the software though. We go to configuration at the top right. On the left-hand side, we'll go to applications and package management. Over here under our package list, you'll see ANPR, and we're just going to click on that once. And it's going to bring us into our ANPR software interface. And here is our live view. Okay, this is what our camera is seeing, our status. This is what our detection results. You'll notice here we have the plate number, the state or country. This is the confidence level, how many pixels our character height is, and then the timestamp. And then right here, remember whenever I was telling you about the calibration pattern, here we can check this to make sure that our characters are big enough, which they are. They're more than good for what we are looking for. Okay, so we need, remember, at least 2 dark lines, and we have 3, so we're fine there. All right. Let me go and we'll just go into review. Remember, this is where we can go and search for plates that have been recorded. So if I want to look for any plate that has the numbers 1, 2, 3 in there, go to search. And it's going to pull up every time it's seen a plate with the 1, 2, 3 in there. All right, let's go to list. Here's where we can set up our blacklist and whitelist and then create the action for if the plate is in the list, what do you want it to do? LPR configuration, I'll go over this in a second. I just want to show you general configuration. Remember, we're going to leave expert, log, and purge alone, and then we can make changes to the maintenance option, which uploads files, and then the licensing there. Here's where it would be if I was needing to audit and make sure that everything's working together properly. And then if I need to export my logs to send it over to technical support, this is where I would do this. All right, so let's set up the camera for LPR configuration. So remember, first we're going to put what region we're in. I want it to be able to detect the countries, or here's where I can add in my states, okay, or different countries. function mode. Do I want it to be trigger or free flow or motion detection? Remember, I have it set up for free flow because that's best for testing purposes. Motion detection, if I wanted to, based on motion, and that's the one that you're normally going to default to for our LPR purposes. If you guys need to remember what these the definitions for these are, that help button, the little question mark here, it will go ahead and bring you up the definition and how to use these modes. All right, here's our resolution. This is the resolution for our VADP, okay, or AMPR, excuse me. So this is, we have it set to 800 by 600. I want to show you this. Okay, so let me go back to live, do the calibration pattern. You can see the distance between each of these white lines. Now, if I go back to LPR configuration and I switch it over to 1920 by 1080, I can go back to live, turn on that calibration pattern, and then you'll notice how it's a lot smaller now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm between 4 lines, but the processing time is going to take a lot longer once it gets to trying to figure out what the license plate is. Okay, so I have that camera physically and zoomed in close enough that I don't need it to be at this high of a resolution. So I could drop it down to the 800 by 600 and it'll work just fine. Guys, if you make changes to anything, like the resolution, the countries, the function mode, make sure that you hit this restart service. So it's going to restart everything with the current configuration. All right. Set up your region of interest. I already have one set up, but I can reset that. Okay, this is so I only want that camera to pay attention to this area right here. Ignore all of the other information that's going on in the background because I just want the plates from this section right here. If I was looking at 2 different lanes, then I can draw a line down wherever the lane is so that it knows that to look for 2 different license plates if needed. You have down here your expert options, so you can change your minimum character height. It's recommended that you leave it where it is, and then the minimum confidence level for this one is just defaulted to 80, so that it's only going to give me the results if it's um, a minimum confidence level of 80. Okay, and then we have our trigger options here for if I had this set up under trigger. And then our free flow and motion options are available here as well. All right, so any changes I've made, I need to restart the service. And then we can go to live, and then you can test it out, make sure that it's seeing everything properly. So let's see. We're currently looking at 6TR J244. It came out up with this. It says it's from California, and it's 99% positive that this is the correct information. All right, so now let's go ahead and we need to do one thing to this so that it will be seen on VAS2. What you need to do is go to lists. What information do you want to send over to VAS2? Well, I want every single plate to be sent over to VAS2. So I'm going to choose this list type that's already created. Okay, you'll notice that the action for list all plates one says one, so I need to open that up and you'll create this action for the list. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to hit the plus sign. We're going to name it. So we'll just call it test one, but basically I'm just going to be copying this because it's already set up, right? Our action type, we're setting this camera up as a socket client. Okay, and then you want to make sure that it's enabled. Okay, so then what I need to do is now change the scheduler. So what I do is double click on this, and then it brings up my scheduler. Okay, so I can make changes to this, or right now I'm just going to leave it as all day, every day. You want to add in your host. Now the host is going to be your VAS2 server. So my VAS2 server, the IP address is 0.131. I'm just going to leave the 17,000 port, and then I want the format to be XML. Okay, so once you're done with that, it will save it automatically. And now we can go to VAST. So let's go ahead and open up VAST. All right. If I did not have this camera already installed on VAST, then all we have to do is go to Settings, Device, Cameras, and then click on the plus sign. But I already have this, so it's just like adding any other camera to VAST 2. Just go ahead and add that. Okay, but now under Devices, now go down to Data Magnet, and then you'll click the plus, Add Data Source, and then choose a license plate recognition, VIVOTEK ANPR, and then since our port, we left the 17,000, we'll just leave that here again, and then it'll create this one right here. Now I can go over to live view. That's it. It's set up. Now I just need to make it pretty, how I want to view it. So we'll go to live. We'll drag our camera over. Let's go ahead and make that bigger. And then if I want to see all of my information on the side of it, on my LPR information, I'll right click on anywhere on the screen, and then we'll go to Data Magnet, Show Data. And then it will pop up all the information in live view time, real time, excuse me, right? So now it changed to a different plate. So we have Montana and 498565B. And then every time this changes, it's just going to change as well over here on this side. I can change what I'm showing. Okay, so if I'm going, I can right click here and then go to Data Magnet, Edit Display Data. Okay, and then I can choose to show all this information, or I can just say, oh, well, I only want to see the plate number, the timestamp, the lane name if there's a lane name, right? The country or state. And then once you make those changes, you can click on apply. Another thing I want you to notice here is you notice how this one is highlighted whenever it's APC 1234 shows up. That is because over here under Data Magnet, highlight keyword or value, I created this, right? So I wanted it to highlight whenever a plate number 123 showed up. So highlight it here. So that's where that highlight's coming from. And you can set this up either by plate number, if you want to know I only highlight it if it's in lane 1. So you can choose what you want to highlight. Okay. All right, next I will show you how to search for this function. So if we go over here to Applications at the top right, and we choose Data Magnet, now we're searching the VIVOTEK ANPR. We can choose our devices, select our time, and then the search criteria. Well, if I just want to search based on everything, anytime it has seen recorded a plate, let's go ahead and hit search, and then it shows up all of my different results. And it shows that we had 395 results. I can then choose the ABC 1234. If I double click on that, now I can play back the video from whenever that plate was recorded. Easily export the video as well if needed. Just do the normal export your clips, choose the amount of time that you want to back up, and then click on the checkbox. Look for your green check, the open folder, and then it'll open it up here. And you can easily get to your exported video. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up our presentation on our VIVOTEX LPR stop and go applications. As you can see, it's very easy to use, very easy to set up. So with this stop and go application, you no longer need a server to perform those LPR functions. Okay, you can find more information on these two bullet cameras that I went over today, along with other cameras that will work with our license plate capturing applications on our website. If you have any questions, please email us at trainingna@vivotech.com. If you guys missed a webinar or are wanting to view this recording at a later time, you can find those recordings on our partner portal. Just log into vivotech.channeltivity.com, navigate to Vivotech's training folder located on the left side menu, then folders, and in here's where you can find training videos, corporate videos, and our webinars and more. Finally, as you know, we are giving away a Yeti Rambler to one customer that attends our presentation. So the first customer with a valid company email to send me the answer on these two questions will win. So what is the size of the micro SD card that's included with the IB LPR cameras? And then question two is true or false question. So separate server is needed to run the ANPR software. Is that true or false? Send over your answers to trainingna@vivotech.com and I'll email you back if you're the winner. Thank you guys so much for attending our webinars this past year. We wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Thank you again. We'll see you guys next year.